Stephen Hawking famously said that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. And when we say that our cities are intelligent or smart cities, yet we're not able to adapt our cities to accommodate the needs of everyone who uses them. Our demographics are changing constantly. People are becoming more able or disabled within the cities. However, our cities are not changing.
Something that sort of got reframed in my mind was how I thought about accessibility, or how I was taught about accessibility, that we need to make sort of accommodations for other people. So think about people in wheelchairs, people who have a cane due to mobility concern, people who have toddlers on strollers, people who are traveling, people who may have suitcases, right? Think about women who are pregnant, right? How would they navigate that situation as well? So if you start thinking about those demographics or those stakeholders, you will realize very quickly how many of these locations are not accessible. Over time, I got exposed to more and more difficulties, especially with the metro system. And last year, in July 2020, during the pandemic, I decided to do an audit of Montreal's metro stations. And in 4 days, I went to all 4 lines, ventured across all 68 stations, up and down 8,600 plus stairs, escalators, elevators, counted everything, and presented this accessibility audit and analysis for Montreal's metro stations. From there, I identified 5 structural barriers that exist in our metro system. The first one is the most common one. I coined it as limbo stations because the stations would potentially leave you in a limbo state, because there are stations that have escalators to go in or out to get to the terminal, but after that you only have stairs. The second one would be opposites attract. This is stations that have multiple exits, but each exit has a different accessibility element. So one of them would have escalators all the way to get to the exit. The other ones would have escalators, and then they would just have stairs. So it's just a bit bizarre as to what was the decision behind choosing one entrance to be relatively more accessible than the other. The third one that I call it one-sided coin, and those sort of refer to stations with escalators, but only unidirectional escalators. So they would have escalators to either go up or down, and the majority of the times they have escalators to go up but not to go down, which I find funny, that you can exit the metro system but you can't enter the metro system. The fourth one is stair cardio. So there are, I think, a few stations that just have stairs. They don't have any escalators, they don't have any elevators, and you just do a stair cardio to get out of the station or to enter the station. And then the last one is, I call them orange cone barriers. If you're in Montreal, you know what orange cones are. There are some stations that have barriers that shouldn't be there anyways. So one big example is Place des Arts metro station, and they have turnstiles to exit. So that's an orange cone barrier in my opinion, and that can be easily removed because that's the only station that has that. Out of 68 stations, only one station has that vertical turnstile. A lot of the solutions that people are talking about seem to be long-term solutions. So for example, installing an elevator or installing escalators, and a lot of times they tend to be delayed further and further because it costs a lot. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be pursuing them. We have to pursue them because in the long term we need to have all our places accessible. But it's also important to think about short-term and medium-term solutions. So short-term solution that I can easily give an example of is when I conducted the audit for Montreal's metro, I created posters for each station that sort of show the accessibility experience that anyone would have going through each station, and they can plan which exit or entrance they want to go to, because depending on their ability, they may want an escalator or they may want an elevator. So I started with the accessibility audit of the metro stations, and now we're doing the accessibility audit of all the stores. This is where 4 Days 4 Lines and Move are collaborating to tag all the locations The idea is that if I can go to any store and I identify as an able-bodied person, then anyone else should be able to go there as well. Volunteers sort of spreading around Montreal, and they're going to all the locations, measuring the entrances, the height of the doorknobs or the types of handles, the washrooms as well, if they have accessible washrooms. And then we would ask questions about payment terminals, if they provide any individual support for accessibility, if they communicate in sign language, if they have menus in Braille, all of those elements, because it caters to very different stakeholders. And this will all be appearing on the Move app, but 4 Days 4 Lines will be doing analysis of all the data that we're collecting and making recommendations to businesses as well as people in the government. That is a medium-term solution, because by the time elevators are being built in the next 3, 4, 10, 15 years, at least those people can book rides and they can go to all those locations and access education, access better jobs, access better housing as well. Just a slight reminder that people are not disabled. They are made disabled by the built environment they find themselves